Welcome everyone to the Awakening Mintaka Symposium, the recorded footage from our wonderful half-day seminar that we held on Zoom. There are 4 parts. These 4 parts will also be available on the Meow Podcast YouTube site, and the other wonderful creators, panelists, and participants are welcome to share that on their pages as well. Please go follow all of these wonderful folks. They gave their time and their heart and their trust and their faith in me putting this thing together by the seat of my pants. I hope you enjoy. It was a wonderful day, better than I ever could have anticipated, and we're excitedly planning next year's symposium, which hopefully will be an in-person event with a live stream. So enjoy, and I want to give a special thank you to my co-host on Meow Podcast and my BFF, Seraphina Blackman, for supporting me in this endeavor when I just declared, yep, I'm doing this, and I have no idea how. I had no idea who would show up, and now that we're getting to the people who showed up, I want to thank the wonderful panelists for giving their time and supporting this event and participating. And I also want to thank everyone who attended, everyone who registered. I'm glad I'm getting this footage up now because we are in the middle of the Mintaka Gateway. Mintaka is in alignment with the sun, the galactic center. So I hope you enjoy this, and so much love and gratitude to everyone who participated, all the panelists, and a little apology to anyone who had trouble with the Eventbrite site. It was my first time using that, and we'll have the bugs figured out next time. So without further ado, enjoy this episode of the Awakening Mintaka Symposium. All 4 parts were really lovely, and we hope you enjoy it. Welcome everybody to the Awakening Mintaka Symposium. I am so excited that you have joined us today. We have some very amazing presenters and panelists, and I'm thrilled to share all of that with you. We will try to stay on schedule as best we can. There will be breaks throughout the day. If you're watching this later, disregard everything I just said. At any rate, I'm Andrea Land. I go by Grooving Goddess on the socials, and I'm an intuitive, a podcaster, a singer-songwriter, and a pretty spaced out, wacky hippie chick. So that is me, and I think a lot of you probably have heard the Paranormal Karen episode where I talked a bit about my Mintaka origins. I didn't, not everybody has heard that, so I need to go into a tiny bit of backstory. But all of this for me, the Mintaka thing, was such a beautiful surprise and shock. Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Yeah, okay, muting. There we go. So it's so hard for me to know where to start. All right. I have been awake, as everybody likes to talk about, as long as I can remember in my life. I remember astral traveling when I was very little, and then my grandmother grounding me spiritually for a while because she was worried I wasn't going to come back or where I was going or for my safety. So I felt like, I kind of had a grasp on all of this, and I always had that starseed origin feeling, but I had no clue about Mintaka. So I went through my life with both the knowledge that I have, with both the knowledge that I have that starseed origin of actual celestial origin, meaning that what I remembered when I was a child was being light. That's what I remembered. I had a little best friend, and she and I knew that we were light and that we came from the stars and we were here to love people. So then there was also the association with oceans, beaches, whales, music, extreme love, I struggled as a child because I would go to kindergarten and the games that kids would play, the normal aggressive, or at least I guess it's normal, maybe they don't do that anymore, but just so much aggression and competitiveness and everything. And I just wanted to hold hands and sing, you know, and paint pretty pictures and do fun things that made everybody enjoy themselves. So it was a little difficult being that love filled, going through the world, but I learned to adapt. And then as I got more into uh, the ocean feeling, I realized that, you know, oh, maybe I'm from Atlantis, but that never set with me. And then in the last 5 years or so, people really started talking about the Atlantean wound, and still that didn't sit with me. It was like I did not have the feeling that I was left behind and I was just waiting for them to come get me. I had the deep sadness that I couldn't go home, but I didn't really understand where that came from. So fast forward to 2020, summer of 2020. I had an experience with a tiny little wood beetle out in my backyard where I had this mind meld with this insect, and I was seeing through his eyes. And we had a conversation, and he told me that I would be used, because I was asking him, why are we doing this? And he told me that I would be communicating with larger things, right? And so here I am thinking, oh, I guess I'm going to be like this three-eyed raven and be communicating over long distances through ravens or elephants or who knows what. So I kept working on this idea that I had started, which I now know as pranic healing, but it just sort of happened naturally for me, where I was working on expanding my love field, my love frequency. I call it my love bubble, but being able to expand that out farther and farther to do things like calm the neighborhood or push fire smoke out of the valley. We had a very awful fire that summer, very close by. So I just kept doing that love expansion. And then in the meantime, I started taking baths and listening to cetaceans. And one of the times I was in the bathtub, I connected with the cetaceans, and it was a beautiful experience. They were lovely, of course, and the dolphins and the whales just really embraced me, and they told me that I was going to be going somewhere. And and I was like, okay, if you say so. And then so for a little while, I was just channeling whales, and that was probably about a month or two that happened. And then, sorry, I'm muting. All right, there we go. So the next thing that happened, I was still taking the baths, listening to the chanting, talking to the whales, and all of a sudden one day I heard this voice, and it was as if someone was right next to my ear, but it was not like the sort of vision or downloads or anything that I normally get. This was like there was a person standing right next to me. And it told me that I need to learn to use the many voice. And I'm thinking, okay, now what do you want me to do, guides? So I pondered that for a while, and I slowly started getting some different ideas for a musical compilation that would allow for complete octave activation throughout the body. But it was taking a little bit to get it put together, and I was getting kind of frustrated with it. So soon after that, I was taking one of my meditation baths, and I was having a particularly difficult time I mean, everybody was, right? But I was having a lot of tower moments in my life, and everything was very overwhelming. And so I was in the bathtub just trying to feel better and console myself, and also meditate a bit. And it was like being sucked through a light tunnel and going down in the bathtub, closing my eyes, and then sitting up and opening my eyes, and I'm not in my bathtub. I'm in this, and I'm probably going to get emotional because it is emotional, but I'm in this place. I'm underwater fully, and I know I don't look like my earth self right now, and there's 7 other beings around me, and one of them I recognized, which I'll get to in a moment. And the feeling of love and harmony in this environment, it's hard to describe because it's so complete. It is so complete, the oneness and the experience of being there. So I'm in this beautiful underwater place, and we're all able to breathe underwater, and the water itself is alive, and I can feel that it's alive, but it's still separate, and it sings, and you can I could see forever on the floor of the ocean that I was in. I like to call it the sentient ocean. And so my pod, which is what I started calling it thanks to one of our panelists, Shannon, my pod surrounded me and took me like shoulder to shoulder, and they did this beautiful singing and a dance where we all went back and forth together in unison. And then they told me that they were going to be helping me and that I had work to do. The feeling of being there was so deeply home that when I came back, at first I was just completely thrown off. I was missing my home, and I felt that missing. And then at the same time, I had joy, because up until that moment, I thought that Mintaka was gone. And even after that experience, I still thought Mintaka was gone. And maybe I was just, I don't know, having a past life vision or something. But as I've come to understand, time is really pretty much fluid. None of that matters at this point. But I came back and I cried in the bathtub, because it was like I just wanted to go back there. I just absolutely wanted to go back there. And I was afraid I'd never get to go back there again. So as I came out of that and I really started to think about it, I thought to myself, let's see, I gotcha, muting, okay, there we go. So as I came back from that, I was trying to process it all, and then all of a sudden I realized, what if it's still there? And so over a period of time, through channelings with Mintaka, from visiting there, from asking them questions that I knew I had and other people had, they told me that they weren't gone. They had shifted to a different frequency to hide the planet from the wars that were happening at the time. And in order to do that, half of us needed to come here. So those of us who are Mintakan starseeds, that's part of the reason that we're here. And it was kind of necessary for us to believe that our home was gone all this time, or else, we might have just gone back. That's why I'm so committed to getting this information out there, because it was so heart healing knowing that it's all still there. And I mean, it's like your actual family is still there, and they are always watching us, aware of us, assisting us. It's just that most of us haven't had the experience of connecting with them in the same way. But when we do, they are so excited, because, I mean, they've been waiting a while, So we've been here, for what I estimate is about 60,000 years or so. So how this happened for me, though, and the person that I met, that I knew when I went to Mintaka the first time and was with my pod, prior to that, I had a wonderful romance with an Afrobeat pop star who wrote me an album. It's up on Spotify. I'll put that in notes. But the thing that was wild is that I got to see him in that Mintakan environment, his higher self, and that's who was there with my pod. And it was like in a flash, all of the details of our history together came through to me. So that thing I said about knowing when I was a child that I was just light, that I didn't, have a body, and I just blipped wherever I wanted before I came to Earth, was partly true. But the reason I embodied for the first time was on Mintaka, and it was for love. I loved him so much and loved it there so much that I was willing to take on a body to stay. Before that, I was just musing around the universe and helping artists and inspiring people and loving and then leaving, as muses do. So it was very difficult when he and I didn't work out. The pandemic did not help that. But I really think the purpose of us connecting in this life more than anything was for me to get to the point where I went home and got to see it and experience it and have that connection. So on another one of my visits, this was the cool part, is that once I went, it was like so easy to make happen. I would just get in the bathtub, and that seems to work better for me. I have channeled in my bed, but I don't, and it may just be a sensory thing from an Earth perspective, but I don't have the same visceral experience of it where I really feel like I'm there and like this world just disappears. But one of the times that I went there, I got to see more of the planet, and it's mostly water. There's huts that they have that are both above the water and beneath the water because they can, breathe underwater. They're shape-shifty. I'm not going to go too much into that because Seraphina Blackman will be talking about physical structure in a little while. But very shape-shifty. And the coolest part about it is, so they have a couple of little sort of island areas, which are like their resorts, because for them it's a vacation to get out of the water. And then the shape-shifty part is so fascinating because they communicate much more through tones and sound and song than they do through words. And when they come out of the water, sometimes they might give themselves a tropical bird head, or another time it's another creation. They create by singing their inspiration and it just appears. So for instance, a painter, let's say, who they don't really paint on canvas, but let's just say, because everybody on this planet is co-creating all the time. So they take the creative medium of the universe, source energy, and they just sing it into being. They make their vision become a live reality. And so I watched this beautiful Mintakan woman with a bird head on, making all of these different little creatures and flowers and plants and different flora and fauna. I recently did an intuitive painting class. I am not an artist, but this class is really fun. It's with Maisie, Yoga with Maisie. Put a little plug in there for her. But what she had us do was just sort of do it by intuition instead of like, oh, I'm going to try to paint this thing now. Dipping and painting and dipping and painting and not really giving it a lot of thought. But what came out of one of them for me, hopefully I can make this, yeah. What came out of them for me was this, which looks very much like some of the foliage and the little funny birds. It's like the environment there is so shape-shifty that it is a bit like looking at a painting that's alive. I'm trying to think if that's everything I wanted to throw out in the beginning so we can kind of try to stay on track. Yep. All right, I actually got everything out. Yay me. So since then, it's just this constant presence in my life and having that understanding of why I was here and how I got here and how I wound up taking on a body, and all of that launched me into everything that I'm doing now. Let's see, I had a thing and there was just one part that I didn't quite, must not matter. So the Mintaka experience, I just want to say this for everyone who's here and everyone who's presenting and on the panel, that none of us are saying we have all the answers. We know everything. We're the experts. I listened to a little bit of content when I first found out about Mintaka, and it was just not so great. It was very, it just felt very staged. It sounded a bit like, you know, The Little Mermaid with Aquaman thrown in, and didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I stopped watching all that, and that was long before I ever even took a trip to Mintaka. But I want to make sure that everyone understands that all of our experiences are and can be different. And just because the way you are experiencing Mintaka or being a starseed or anything about your spirituality is completely individual. And as we all understand this reality and how time is fluid, we're getting to know that we need to leave room for the possibility that I'm right about my experience and you're right about yours. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who is watching now or watches later, that our experiences may all be a little different, and nobody is claiming to have all the answers today. So that is all I'm going to say for now, and I'm going to ask Marisa to get on the mic. Marisa LaGuardia of LaGuardia Clayworks is going to share some cards. Hi there. Awesome.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. I'm going to spotlight you and get rid of me. And there we go. Take it away, Marisa.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm really excited to share some of the messages that came through the card reading that I did. I pulled these cards a few days ago just because I really wanted to give it some time to digest and any additional messages to come forward really make themselves known. So I used the Starseed Oracle for the main part of the reading, and then I pulled just a couple clarifiers with the Prism Oracle. And so a lot of interesting things came forward. The intention with this reading was to really share some messages with people who might be newer on their journey with Mintaka. I know that I would say I'm relatively new with my awakening. I'm only a couple years in, similar to Andrea. I've always had experiences as a child, but since 2019, things have really started expanding rapidly. So I was, focusing on my messages to be towards the baby starseeds, and also those who are in line with their purpose and their understanding, just as a reminder to return to these messages. So I first, 6 cards came out, which I thought was interesting. We are in a 6-year numerology wise, and that's the Lover's card, which is also about relationships and choices and abundance. But the first card that came out was I Remember, and it says Soul Plan, the Fated Life versus the Destiny Life. Some of the messages I got with that, this one came out, this one came out first, and I see this one as the overall theme, and then the other 5 cards are the clarifiers. So really it's a reminder to tap into your wisdom that's inside of you. Everything that you already know is within you. You just have to unearth it. So really call forward those embedded memories. And I don't typically, I'm pretty familiar with this deck, but I felt the description in the text also is really helpful. So I'm just going to quickly read that. And it says, there was a moment before you were born when you chose the conditions of the life you're living right now, when you plotted out these exact moments along the timeline of your life. We live in a world of free will, and therefore these moments become our destiny only through saying yes. The fated life is the one we were born into. The destiny life is the one our soul chooses, and it takes courage and faith. If you pull this card, it's because you're likely now face to face with a choice to follow the destiny life over the fated life, to trust the path your soul is calling you toward, and to remember that this moment was prearranged on your life's timeline. You may find yourself at a crossroads, at a moment when you're being called to make a decision, to keep walking the perfectly laid out path before you, or choose the ones less traveled. You may be facing a change of career, a new relationship, a difficult decision, or something else that requires courage and faith. You're being invited to remember your soul's greater plan and to surrender to it. When you're confronted with a path that's undefined, it's normal for doubt to rear its head. In fact, it is a certain sign that you're facing your soul's greater plan. Every hero in his or her life journey comes eye to eye with doubt. The only way around it is through it. That's all part of the larger plan. And so I thought that was really interesting because especially now with 2022, we are going to be faced with challenges, moments that we thought we healed that are going to come up again, sort of mirror reflection moments. And that led me to the next card that came out was this one. It says, Breath of the Cosmos, My Will to Thy Will, Micromanaging the Universe. And I also thought it was interesting. These 2 cards have a tendency to link up. I always like to see visually how things are relating to each other. And with even the card spread, I organized it intuitively into a way that showed different columns. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. But it's sort of like this is feeding the memory of this person who's trying to reach up into this collective knowing. So Breath of the Cosmos, about micromanaging the universe. A lot of the times, especially now, manifestation is really a hot topic. Everyone sort of wants to create their reality. But with that, it's also important to remember that if we try to manifest something that we desire, it's sort of like, well, what part of us is speaking? Is it my wounding, my abandonment wound that wants this thing? So really paying attention to what's coming forward, and also letting go of all the things that you think that you might know, or the judgment or the fear that was coming forward with the I Remember card, and allow the universe to guide you. because it knows best. It reminds me of asking yourself a question, you know, what makes you think that the universe doesn't love you eternally? Why wouldn't it be working in your favor? And so 2 other cards came up. I organized these intuitively into the more shadow caution side. We got wait. It's not yet time. Things are being woven, and loosen your grip, coping mechanisms, destiny, addiction, let God in. So that kind of reinforces the fact that although it might be uncomfortable, especially now with everything going on, you want to go forward, you want to evolve and grow and expand, although there is divine timing with everything. I also love how these 2 figures again are sort of floating and they're groundless, which also comes with a lot of instability. But it reminds me of a quote from Chagam Trungpa Rinpoche that says, "The bad news is we're falling. The good news is there is no ground." So it invites us to get creative and really take some time to process and allow for things to happen with divine timing. And then this is the other side, sort of the abundance and the support. We got surrender to the sweetness, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, make love to life. And this one is whale and orca elders, which is not surprising that that came up. And so with surrender to the sweetness, I love this image. I mean, we are faced with beautiful waters, glorious Venus energy, abundance, just earthly pleasures. And I feel like calling that in, especially now with this Taurus North Node, that's the energy that collectively we're heading into over the next couple of years, really bringing in that life energy, getting grounded, connecting with the pleasures of just being alive and being embodied, I think will really help ground you and allow you to trust and to surrender and to heal in the way that you need to. And what I love about the whales is that it does have that direct connection to Mintaka, but also as a reminder that whales have been here for a millennia doing their job and raising the frequency of the earth. And so taking some time to just be grateful and connect to the whales for doing such an amazing job. There are beings that are here helping us, whether we're aware of it or not. And I love also taking a bath and connecting to whales. They've really been coming up a lot in my meditation. So it's nice to see them coming through again too. One thing also with the whales is they do have the connection to the frequency and sound. And so now is a time to speak our truth and share your song and share your voice when you're ready and when you feel that it is needed, and to take time to really go beneath the surface and to seek the truth within you. And then I just had some bottom cards I'll talk about very briefly. We have Earth School. It says life lesson, soul growth, study, higher learning. Then we have Star Keeper. This one says cosmic ancestors seed the light by staying grounded. And then the seeds of Mintaka coming forward, seeing potential, bringing unconsciousness to light. So really what these are is just sort of clarifying a lot of the messages that came through. We're here, Earth School, on a journey, learning, raising the vibration, and also healing karmic wounds and past lives, and finding our soul family and connecting, which I think is really amazing. One of the things that I have heard about Earth is that it's a way to learn really quickly and get your lessons, raise your vibration and ascend very quickly. So I feel like we are doing that collectively at an astounding rate. And so, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me. Again, my name is Marisa LaGuardia. You can find me on the interwebs. Instagram is Marisa LaGuardia. That's my artist page. And then if you want to see some ceramic work, I'm LaGuardia Clayworks. I also am a Reiki practitioner, and I'm getting that in order on my website as well. So I'm in a transition phase, but find me online and we'll connect. And yeah, thank you all for sharing this moment with me.
So that Marisa, first of all, that was wonderful. That is one of my favorite decks, and it's very interesting that you use that one because it was the Mintaka card on there that sort of started this whole thing in the first place, where I became Mintaka curious and started looking it up. I was in a live reading with Nimue Femme Fatale Tarot, and she pulled that card, and those of us who were in this live tend to be together a lot, and it was one of those sessions where you feel like you're, you know, floating in some circle together and you're really with each other. And when she pulled that card, a bunch of us who were in that live just got so overwhelmed with emotion, and that's what it kept coming up with. Some of you were having trouble with the website and the link and whatnot, and we have it posted in as many places as we can. And those of you who came in later, we're going to do the Q&As and the panels, and we can invite you to come on camera and turn on your mic if you like. So if you have any questions right now, go ahead and put that in the chat for me. If there's anything you would like to say or share or ask us about what you've already heard. If you need a bio break, feel free to go do that right now as well. We're going to have breaks throughout the day because we are all human vessels that still need to do things. Next up on the docket, on the agenda, is our wonderful Seraphina Blackman, and she will be talking about energy systems and physical structure, and I think that's going to be a very exciting discussion. So if nobody has any questions right now, I'm going to pause the recording, I think. Do I want to do that? No, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to pause the recording. I'll just keep the recording going, but I'll turn off my camera and my mic. And if anyone has any questions, just go ahead and put them in chat. So let's take our break, and then we will start again with Seraphina on the hour.